A contractor found a camera lens in my bedroom wall. My neighbor had been watching us for 2 years. Through a hole he drilled himself. Reddit most disturbing stories. I discovered my neighbor had been watching my family through a hole in our shared wall for 2 years. My name is Teresa. I am 41 years old. I live in Columbus, Ohio, and 16 months ago, a contractor doing routine insulation work in my townhouse found something behind the drywall of my bedroom that I have not been able to fully process since the moment I understood what I was looking at. My husband and I had owned our townhouse for 6 years. It is a 2-unit property. We own one side. A man named Gary owns the other side. Gary had been our neighbor since we moved in. He was 54 years old, retired, quiet in the way of someone who is present without being intrusive. He waved from the driveway. He kept his side of the property tidy. He had once helped my husband carry a piece of furniture up the front steps without being asked. We had no reason to think anything about Gary except that he was a perfectly unremarkable neighbor. The contractor was a man named Pete who had been referred by our real estate agent for a routine insulation upgrade we had been planning for a year. He was working in the bedroom wall when he called out to me with the specific tone of voice that tells you something is wrong before any words have been said. I came to the bedroom. Pete showed me what he had found. In the shared wall between our townhouse unit and Gary's, there was a hole approximately the size of a quarter that had been drilled from Gary's side. The hole had a small lens fitted into it, a camera lens, small enough to be nearly invisible from our side against the textured paint, positioned at an angle that captured the interior of our bedroom. Pete and I stood in my bedroom and looked at that lens for a long time without speaking. Then I called my husband. Then I called the police. The police investigation confirmed that the camera was connected to a recording device on Gary's side of the wall and that footage had been collected for approximately 2 years. The investigation also found a second hole in our master bathroom that I will not describe in further detail, except to say that its existence and its location require me to spend several weeks in therapy working through things that I am still working through. Gary was arrested that afternoon. He was charged with voyeurism and invasion of privacy. His devices were seized. The investigation of those devices took 3 months. The outcome of the criminal case involved a guilty plea and a sentence that his attorney negotiated to include probation, registration requirements, and a restraining order that required him to have no contact with our family and to vacate the property. Our townhouse is semi-detached, and we had owned our half for 6 years, and I have thought many times about whether we can continue to live there. We are still there. We have had the walls professionally swept for devices twice since the discovery. We had all the drywall on the shared wall side removed and replaced, and inspected before it was replaced. My husband installed a security system the week after the arrest that covers every interior and exterior angle of our half of the property. I still check the corners of rooms when I enter them. My therapist says this is a normal response to what happened, and that the hypervigilance will reduce over time with continued work. I believe her, and I am working on believing her more. What I think about most is not Gary specifically, but the 2 years. 2 years of believing I was in a private space when I was not. 2 years of normal life that was being observed by someone who had violated the fundamental contract of shared space. You cannot get those 2 years back, and you cannot unknow what was being done during them, and I am learning to carry that without letting it define every room I enter. Update. 4 months later, Gary's probation conditions require him to reside at a different address, and he has not been on the property since his arrest. The unit next to ours was sold 4 months ago to a young couple who are aware of the history. We disclosed it fully, and I am glad we did, because they deserve to know. They have been neighbors for 3 months. They wave from the driveway. They keep their side tidy. Last week, the woman knocked on our door to return a package that had been delivered to her address by mistake. I opened the door, and she handed me the package and smiled and said she hoped we were having a good evening. I told her we were, and I meant it, and I closed the door, and I stood in my entryway for a moment and thought about how much work it takes to mean something ordinary and how the work is worth doing. Story 2. Reddit most disturbing stories. My best friend of 15 years confessed she had been in love with my husband since before we met and had been trying to end our marriage. My name is Stephanie. I am 38 years old, I live in Dallas, Texas, and 14 months ago my best friend of 15 years called me from a parking lot at 2 in the morning and told me something that ended our friendship, restructured my marriage, and made me understand that I had been living inside a situation I had not known I was inside for the better part of a decade. Her name is Lisa. We met when we were 22 at our first jobs and had been immediately close in the way of friendships that form in early adulthood when everything is new and the people who witness your beginning feel essential. She had been at my wedding. She had been at the hospital when my daughter was born. She had been the person I called first for everything good and everything hard for 15 years. I had believed she was the most trustworthy person in my life outside of my husband. My husband's name is Kevin. He is 41, and we have been married for 9 years, and we have a 7-year-old daughter named Mia. Kevin and Lisa had known each other through me since before Kevin and I started dating. I had introduced them at a gathering and thought nothing of it because Kevin and I were just friends at that point, and Lisa was my best friend, and they were both simply people I cared about. Kevin and I got together 6 months after that introduction. Lisa had been enthusiastic about our relationship from the beginning. She had been the one who told me he clearly liked me before I had seen it myself. She had encouraged the relationship at every stage. She had given a toast at our wedding that made everyone cry. I had never had a single reason to think anything about any of this. The call at 2 in the morning came after a situation that had been building for months, without my seeing it. Kevin had been pulling back from Lisa over the previous year, spending less time at gatherings that included her, seeming uncomfortable when her name came up, finding reasons to leave early when she was present. I had noticed this and had asked him about it twice, and he had said he just found her energy draining lately and that it was nothing specific. It was specific. What Kevin had not told me, and what he told me the morning after Lisa's call, was that Lisa had been making increasingly direct statements to him over the previous 2 years about her feelings for him. Not the kind of statements that could be attributed to drunken candor or friendship affection, but deliberate, specific, escalating communications that had made Kevin deeply uncomfortable and that he had been declining and managing without telling me because he had been trying to handle it himself and had not known how to introduce the information without creating exactly what he was afraid it would create. Kevin had not been entirely wrong to be afraid. The morning after Lisa's call was one of the most difficult mornings of our marriage. Not because of what Kevin had done, because Kevin had done the right things, but because I had to absorb the information that my best friend of 15 years had been in love with my husband, and that Kevin had known this and had been managing it for 2 years, and that I had been the last person in the relevant parties to know. Lisa's call at 2 in the morning had been a confession of everything. She had been crying, and she had said she was calling because she could not keep carrying it, and that she was sorry, and that she had tried to stop feeling what she felt and could not, and that she had also done she was not processing for me to fully understand. Lisa had been the person who had encouraged Kevin and me to get together. She had done this not out of generosity, but out of a calculation that if I married Kevin and the marriage had problems, she would be positioned as the person closest to both of us. She had spent 9 years of our marriage being that person, present at every difficulty, offering counsel that she now admitted had sometimes been designed to create distance between Kevin and me rather than repair it. Not dramatically, not obviously. Small things over years that were only visible in retrospect when seen as a pattern rather than as individual moments. I sat with all of this for a very long time. Lisa and I have not spoken since that phone call. I do not expect we will speak again. Kevin and I are in couples therapy, not because our marriage was broken, but because what we went through required processing that we could not do adequately alone. Our therapist has been helpful in distinguishing between what Lisa did and what Kevin should have done differently, and those are separate conversations that needed to happen separately. He has said this, and I believe he means it, and we are working on what it means that he didn't. Lisa did something that I am still finding language for. Not an affair in the physical sense, but a sustained and deliberate presence in our marriage designed to weaken it from inside. I had called her my best friend for 15 years, and she had been something else for most of those years, and I did not know. Update: 5 months later, Mia asked about Lisa last month, why she had not been around. Mia has always liked Lisa, and Lisa had always been warm with Mia in ways that I now examine with the specific discomfort of someone who has revised their understanding of a person's intentions. I told Mia that Lisa and I had grown apart, and that sometimes adult friendships change. Mia nodded and asked if I was sad about it. I told her a little bit, and that it was okay to be a little bit sad about something even when the change was right. She sat with that for a moment, and then said that she was a little bit sad too, and then she asked if we could have pizza for dinner. And I said yes, and we had pizza, and I sat at the table with my husband and my daughter, and I thought about 15 years of a friendship I had believed was one thing and had been another, and I thought about the table I was at and the people at it, and I chose the table. Story 3. Reddit most disturbing stories. I found out my stepfather had been opening my mail and monitoring my finances for 8 years without my knowledge. My name is Nicole. I am 34 years old. I live in Atlanta, Georgia, and 2 years ago I discovered that my stepfather had been intercepting my mail, monitoring my bank accounts through access I had not knowingly given him, and maintaining a detailed file of my financial and personal activities for 8 years, a period that covered my entire adult life from age 24 to 32. My stepfather's name is Gerald. He married my mother when I was 19 and had always been present in the specific way of stepparents who do not fully occupy a parental role, but who are consistent fixtures of family life. I had not been close to him, but I had not had reason to distrust him specifically. He was organized, controlled, financially successful, and spoke about his family with a possessiveness that I had attributed to old-fashioned protectiveness rather than to something that required examination. I found out because I was doing my taxes and discovered a discrepancy in my financial history that I could not account for. I brought it to my accountant, who found a second discrepancy, and then a third, and who told me I needed to speak to a bank fraud specialist. The fraud specialist was a woman named Janet who spent 2 weeks going through my financial history and who found evidence of an access pattern that was not mine, periodic reviews of my account activity from a device and location that were not associated with me. The location was my mother's house. The device was registered to Gerald. Janet told me what she had found, and I sat in her office and felt something I cannot fully describe, not quite violation, not quite fear, something that combined both of those with a specific bewilderment at the scale of what had apparently been occurring without my knowledge. My attorney filed a complaint with the Postal Service about the mail interception, which is a federal offense. The Postal Service investigation confirmed that mail addressed to me had been redirected to my mother's address at some point in the past, a redirection that had apparently been set up and quietly removed over the years, but that left traces in postal records. The file that investigators found at Gerald's office, he had an office in their home, was organized chronologically and contained bank statements, mail correspondence, notes about my employment and relationships, and what appeared to be an assessment of my financial position updated approximately quarterly. 8 years of documentation about my life that I had not known existed. Gerald's explanation, delivered through his attorney, was that he had been protecting me, that he had financial expertise and had been monitoring my situation to ensure I was not making decisions that would harm my long-term security. The legal system did not find this explanation adequate. He was charged with multiple counts of mail fraud and unauthorized computer access. The case was resolved through a plea agreement. The outcome included significant fines, probation, and a restraining order prohibiting any contact with my financial institutions or personal communications. My mother's response to all of this has been the most complicated element. She did not know the full extent of what Gerald had been doing. I believe this. But she had known he was involved in my finances in ways she had understood as helpful and had not questioned. Our relationship has required significant work to survive what happened and is currently cautious and ongoing. I live my life now with a specificity about privacy that I had not previously needed. I know my account access settings completely. I know where my mail goes. I review my financial records monthly. I know these things not because I am fearful, but because I now understand that knowing them is a responsibility I had been leaving to others, and that the others are not always who you believe them to be. Update: 3 months later, my mother called me last month and asked if she could visit. I said yes with specific parameters: a defined time, a neutral location, no Gerald. She agreed to all 3 conditions. We had lunch for 2 hours. She was honest about what she had known and had not known, and what she wished she had questioned and had not questioned. I did not tell her I forgave her because I am not fully there yet. I told her I was glad she had come and that I wanted to keep talking. She said she wanted that too. We hugged in the parking lot when we left, and I stood next to my car. And I thought about the specific complexity of loving someone who failed to protect you and deciding what to do with both of those things simultaneously. I am still deciding. I think I will be deciding for a while, and that deciding is okay. Story 4. Reddit most disturbing stories. My husband's coworker had been sending me anonymous, threatening messages for a year. I found out it was because she believed he was in love with her. My name is Rachel. I am 36 years old. I live in Phoenix, Arizona, and 18 months ago I had been receiving anonymous text messages for approximately 1 year that had ranged from unsettling to genuinely frightening, and that I had reported to the police on 3 occasions without result. The messages came from rotating numbers that the phone carrier had traced to prepaid devices purchased with cash. They contained information about my daily routines, where I shopped, what time I left the house, where my daughter's school was, that indicated whoever was sending them was watching me with a consistency that had made me change my routes, vary my schedule, and install security cameras at our house in ways that my daughter, who was 8 at the time, had noticed and asked about. I had told her we were just being extra careful, and I had not slept through a full night in 11 months. My husband's name is David. He had known about the messages from the beginning and had been as frightened as I was, and had been the one who had pushed most consistently for police involvement. We had both been trying to think of anyone who might have a reason to do this, and had not been able to identify anyone. The investigation break came from an unexpected direction. A woman at David's office. A new employee named Carla, who had joined the company 8 months before the messages ended, had been terminated for reasons unrelated to me and had, in the process of being escorted from the building, said something to her supervisor that her supervisor had found concerning enough to flag. What Carla had said, in the distress of losing her job, was a reference to David's wife that contained a specificity it should not have contained if Carla had no particular connection to our family. David's supervisor called David. David called me. David called the police. The police investigation connected Carla to 3 of the prepaid phone purchases through surveillance footage at the stores where the phones had been bought. When confronted with the evidence, Carla provided a statement that I've been told about in summary and that I have not read in full because I decided my mental health was better served by the summary. The summary is this. Carla had believed for the 8 months she worked with David that he was in love with her. She had interpreted professional interactions, standard workplace conversation, ordinary collegial kindness as evidence of a mutual feeling he was unable to express because he was married. She had decided that I was the obstacle between them and had been attempting to frighten me sufficiently that I would leave. David had no idea she felt this way. He had interacted with her as he interacted with all colleagues professionally and without any particular significance. He had had no indication that anything he had done had been received as anything other than normal workplace interaction. The criminal case against Carla resulted in a stalking conviction and a sentence that included jail time and a restraining order. I attended the sentencing. I did not speak. I had submitted a written victim impact statement, but I sat in the courtroom and I watched the process conclude, and I felt something that was not the satisfaction I had anticipated. I had expected to feel relieved, and I felt something more complicated, something that involved looking at a woman who had constructed an entire reality in her head and had acted on it in ways that had cost me a year of my safety and my daughter's security and my uninterrupted sleep, and who was clearly someone whose grip on what was real had been compromised in ways that went beyond malice into something that needed treatment rather than exclusively punishment. I said this to David on the drive home. He was quiet for a moment, and then he said that she had still done what she had done, and that the complexity of her mental state did not reduce the cost to us. I said I knew, and that I was not excusing it, and that I was just naming what I saw. He said he thought that was fair. We drove home. Our daughter was at my mother's for the evening. We sat on the couch together in our house with the security cameras that were still up and the routes I still varied, and David put his arm around me and I sat there, and I let myself be relieved even though the relieved was complicated, and I think complicated relieved is still relieved, and I will take it. Update. 4 months later, the security cameras are still up. I may take them down eventually. I have started sleeping through the night again most nights, which my therapist says is a meaningful indicator. My daughter asked me last month if we were still being extra careful. I told her we did not need to be as careful as before, and that things were better. She asked if they were all the way better. I told her mostly, and that mostly was good. She said okay, and went back to what she was doing, and I sat there thinking about the word mostly, and how it is sometimes the most honest available answer, and how honest and good are not always the same thing, but that honest is always the better starting point.